This is me at work. See how normal I look? I was a teacher for 25 years. Long sleeve shirt, skinny tie, tucked and belted. This is me away from work. Also tucked and belted. These two images help tell the story of the complicated journey I've been on for most of my life. On the one hand, trying to fit in, please everyone, play by the rules, and not ruffle any feathers. On the other, longing to stand out, please myself, break all the rules, and wear as many feathers as possible. Growing up, it was clear I was drawn to fringe over frump, pink fur over polyester. But as a gay kid growing up in Pocatello, Idaho, a town with more Mormons per capita than Salt Lake City, I learned early on the importance of fitting in. As a non-Mormon, I was already suspect. LDS parents suspected that I might be a bad influence on their kids. My peers suspected that I was having more fun doing whatever Lutherans do than they were having as young Latter-day Saints. Once you're branded as other, the journey from outsider to pariah can happen in an instant, crossing your legs a certain way, not understanding basketball, having a keen sense of fashion. If they knew I liked boys, there was no telling what might happen. I was born pre-Stonewall and grew up believing that being gay meant being a degenerate, someone so morally repugnant that society had every right to be disgusted by my very existence. I woke up every morning terrified that my parents would discover my secret. There were days when I would lock myself in my parents' bathroom, and before they got home from work, I would line up all the pill bottles on the counter and try to decide if it was better to live with the fear that my secret would come out or take matters into my own hands to make sure it didn't. When I was in elementary school, one way therapists used to try to cure male homosexuality was to show patients pictures of naked men while giving them drugs and electric shocks until they vomited. Then they would show them pictures of naked or semi-naked women, this time no shocks, and sadly for those men, no drugs to make palatable the sight of all those vajayjays. No offense to vajayjays, I'm just not into them. Until I was in 8th grade, the American Psychiatric Association said my being gay was a mental disorder. So it was clear to me at a young age that the feelings I had when I saw Burt Reynolds lying on that bare rug in Cosmopolitan magazine were not to be shared with anyone. I found that in my mom's underwear drawer. Thanks, Mom. So passing became my pastime until I could get out of Pocatello into the glamorous world of show business, where being too much was actually celebrated. I used to fantasize that there'd been a mix-up at the hospital and my real parents were Liz and Dick, or Ryan and Farrah, or Sonny and Cher. I just had to make it to California, and they would rush at me and greet their long-lost son with open arms. Stars got a pass. Donny Osmond was a good Mormon boy, but it was fine for him to dress like this. Oh, he's just one of them showbiz types. Even this guy. I swear to you that when Liberace died and it was revealed that he was a homosexual, my grandmother was shocked. Really? Shocked. All right. It wasn't until I was in high school that I began to realize the toll that all those years of hiding and pretending had exacted on me. Just when I was beginning to think I didn't fit in anywhere, along came one glorious person in the form of our high school's drama teacher, Joanne Kissling. You should take theater. With those words, I truly believe she saved my life. At last, a place where I could let it all out, the pain, anger, sarcasm, and silliness I'd been working so hard to contain. A place where one's excesses and eccentricities were nurtured rather than scorned. A place where costumes were not only required, they could land you a spot in the local newspaper. I finally got to be me by being not me. Now, I could dress up on stage, but the rules and the dress code were still the same off stage. For the children out there, that is what we in the 70s called a leisure suit. See how leisurely I look? And although I would never wear that outfit now, in 1976, I was fly. Okay, so not really fly as much as mainstream, safe, normal, not too much. This would have been way too much for Pocatello. But part of me wishes I'd been brave enough to wear that instead of these. At last, my escape to California in search of my tribe. 20 years old, a fake ID, and a cavernous warehouse filled with sweaty male bodies. The West Coast Production Company. Excess was everything. Gorgeous ebony queens working enormous fans on the dance floor. Leather-harnessed macho men in 501 jeans and Doc Martens. And me, reinventing myself. Like a freshly baked Idaho potato, I was ready to be... I was ready to be split open and covered in sour cream. And I was. The tribe was everywhere. Hillcrest, North Park, South Park, Golden Hill, Bankers Hill, all the hills. Well, except for the ones in East County. One heard stories. But stay west of the 805 and life was good. I joined a gay bowling league. My partner joined a gay softball league. My friend Blanche and I decided to cheer the boys on in our own special way. There were parades and festivals and street fairs, a real smorgasbord of gay. And of course, there was the high holy day, Halloween. Finally, people who took dressing up as seriously as I did. We pranced around Hillcrest until my size 13 pumps gave out. It was liberating to finally be able to live and love without apology. I came out to my parents at 22. It wasn't comfortable or easy. It still isn't. But that discomfort is nothing compared to the crippling power of fear. Fear gave way to courage, shame gave way to pride, and in 1987, just 6 years after leaving Pocatello, I was an out gay man producing San Diego State University's first Gay and Lesbian Awareness Week. Testament to the power of living one's truth. Somewhere along the way, I put aside my dream of being a star big enough to wear Liberace-sized boas and decided to become a teacher. Maybe it had to do with all those glorious teachers in my life, like Mrs. Kissling, who saved my life. I was thrilled to be hired by the first school that interviewed me, but nervous that I would be teaching in conservative East County. To use a showbiz analogy, if Hillcrest is Oz, then East County is Kansas, or Pocatello. Still, even Dorothy said there's no place like home, so east I went. It didn't take long to realize I was back in Kansas again. It seemed like the ravages of AIDS had unleashed an even more virulent strain of homophobia among those who already thought gay people were degenerates who should be shocked into submission. Maybe it didn't help that I started an AIDS awareness program at my school, displaying panels from the AIDS Memorial Quilt, many with names of people I knew and loved. Maybe it didn't help that I supported a student initiative to include sexual orientation language in our district's non-discrimination policy. As out as I was in my personal life, I found myself repeating old habits each time I drove east past the 805. There I was, a teacher, yes, but once again surrounded by adolescent boys who reserved faggot and pussy as the worst insults they could hurl at one another. Although my students knew that those words were unacceptable in my class, I began doing what I had always done in the face of possible ridicule at the hands of teenage boys. I did what I needed to do to pass. Now maybe you're looking at me the way I looked at my grandmother when she suddenly discovered that Liberace was gay. Girl, they knew, but I did. A straight colleague of mine once remarked that my being gay was really a non-issue. I mean, when are you going to talk about your sex life in front of your students? The implication was that being gay was merely about sex, and since teachers don't discuss their sex lives with their students, my being gay would never come up. And in her mind, that was a good thing for everyone concerned. She couldn't see the 1,000 small indignities, deciding not to put a picture of you and your partner on your desk in your classroom. My colleague's desk was littered with photos of her husband and kids. She didn't have to tell her students that she had sex. They could see it in the eyes of those little angels in the photograph. Saying, I saw a great play at the Old Globe over the weekend instead of we saw a great play at the Globe, in order to avoid those awkward questions of, who'd you go with, your girlfriend? Hardest of all, I have to acknowledge my own complicity. Maybe if I'd made more of an effort to let them in, my colleagues and my students, things would have been different. Sometimes I wish I'd been braver. I retired early teaching was rewarding but exhausting. A wise sage tells us that what we practice grows stronger. I was practicing making myself smaller and smaller so that I could fit into some preconception of what a high school teacher should be. I was worried that by the time I reached 65, there'd be nothing left of me. "Go west, young man," said Horace Greeley and the village people. And so I went west, back to North Park, back to Oz. Since I've retired, I've been practicing making myself bigger, stronger, more, sorting out who I've been, who I am, and who I want to become. My favorite writer, Paul Monette, wrote, "Every memoir now is a kind of manifesto as we piece together the tale of the tribe." This is my piece. Well, part of it anyway. There's always more.